Always wanted to build one of these little small bikes and actually end up swapping in a 6.5 horsepower engine, which I have on the table there. Get rid of this 105cc little 3 horsepower engine. Got the 6.5 horsepower motor bolted up inside the frame, and she fits perfectly. And holy shit, this is so far my fastest toy. I think the carbon mini bike goes like 45. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's video, we're actually gonna be working on one of the 2 mini bikes I just picked up recently, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I picked up this Baja Warrior over here, stuck in between the 2 toys, and then there's also this Realtree RT100. And today we're actually gonna be working on this one, getting this thing all upgraded, and it's finally time. And then I'm actually gonna be working on that one soon. I just ended up actually ordering up a bunch of parts for it since it's gonna end up staying in the family. I ended up selling that to my pops, so we're gonna end up seeing that thing soon on the channel, either next Monday or next Friday, whatever video I end up deciding to post that with. But today's video, we're gonna be working on this thing, getting this thing all modded out and getting this thing really quick. I mainly bought these 2 bikes for this one right here because I've always wanted to build one of these little small bikes and actually end up swapping in a 6.5 horsepower engine, which I have on the table there. Get rid of this 105cc little 3 horsepower engine. I'm not gonna lie, this thing does rip pretty good. It kind of threw me out for a loop because I was not expecting this thing to go almost 30. I think I did a top speed run in last video. I can toss in here real quick. All right, we got 0 miles per hour. There in my pocket. Definitely need some brakes because I'm gonna be going through shoes ASAP. Let's see what the top speed was. I didn't even check. 29.3. Okay, that's not too bad for a little 3 horsepower. I couldn't imagine what this thing would do with 6. But this thing shocked me going almost 30 miles per hour. So with a 6 horsepower, I'm really curious what it's gonna do. So on the shelf over here, I have this 212 Predator engine that's actually a Hemi model. I think I bought this thing for like 20 bucks a few months ago. The kid I bought it off of said it got stuck at full throttle, and the throttle was like literally stuck full whenever you started it, but it ran just at full tilt. And after pulling off the intake, I noticed that one of these bolts for the intake adapter actually flew inside the intake and jammed up the carb. I was able to yank that thing out, and this thing runs perfectly. So we got a cheap little motor. Definitely need to do a little maintenance to this thing because this thing is looking a little more crustier than I thought. But hey, we at least got a solid little motor that we can actually swap inside of this mini bike here. So that's what I'm gonna plan on doing today. I am still waiting for a bunch of parts to come in the mail, which I should be here tomorrow to actually get this whole thing finished up. I'm thinking tonight we at least start by getting this thing all ripped apart, get everything off of it that we need to, and just start prepping to actually getting this 212 mocked up in there. And I would like to maybe even get all the holes and everything knocked out, get it mounted up tonight if possible. So then tomorrow we can just kind of come out here and knock out all the small little nitty gritty stuff to actually get this thing a running and driving machine. I even bought a new seat and stuff like that. I even bought a new sprocket, so this thing should rip pretty good with the 6.5 horsepower motor. And I literally just did one of these with my buddy's mini bike off camera, not even a couple days ago. We ended up stopping a 224 in actually, and that thing rips. So I kind of got it fresh in my mind, so this thing should be a pretty quick build. I think I could probably just knock it out today and tomorrow and kind of make this a quick little video of a full build on this thing. That's the goal at least. So enough talking, let's start by actually getting this thing all ripped apart and start by getting that 212 mocked up in there so we can get it all mounted up tonight. So I just finished up getting this thing completely stripped down, getting the old 3 horsepower pulled out of there, all the fenders, plastics and stuff. I did leave it a roller for right now. I will need to pull off the rear wheel to at least change the sprocket later, but I'll knock that out once we actually get this thing mostly together at that point and actually ready to install the sprocket. But got the 6.5 horsepower mocked up in there, and she is definitely a tight fit in there. I'm really surprised it fits with the stock exhaust. You guys can see it literally barely has a finger clearance in there, but she fits, so that's cool. I'm actually gonna rock that. I was planning on actually stealing the center exit exhaust for another quad and then just buying it later because it will fit with that whole setup, at least with this motor and all that. But I've been sitting here just trying to line up the chain, seeing where the motor actually needs to sit. We are having a couple little issues where the motor's actually hitting the frame. So the first issue, we got the oil plug on the front here is actually just rubbing right against this bar here, so it's just not letting the motor come up just a little bit more, which is causing back here is the carb bowl is actually hitting the frame right there. It is ever so slightly hitting, so I think I'm just going to take a hammer and either punch this side up a little bit so I can kind of get the motor to push up a little bit and clear the bowl, or hit the bar right here, just because I need that little bit, like an 1/8 of an inch of clearance, just to get the motor to come over a little bit more, get the chain lined up, and then I actually start marking my holes and drilling my holes to get the motor mounted up inside the frame here. And my way to actually mark the holes is kind of a cool way that I kind of learned over the years. So you actually take a can of spray paint and actually just spray it inside of the mounting holes. I got a bolt sit in this one, but spray it inside the mounting holes, and while it's still wet, you can wipe it off so you're not painting your motor. But it also just shoots right down, marks your holes for you. Now you know where to drill out all the 4 holes and actually get the motor mounted up. So that's the goal right now, get this thing all mounted up. I think I'm gonna clearance out a few spots real quick so we can get it 100% all lined up. I got a little clutch on there that I kind of had lying around. I do have a new one coming on the way with a brand new chain and all that, so don't worry about this for right now. We're just mocking it all up, getting everything all lined up. So let's get the motor all mounted up, and I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Using the spray paint method and spraying it down the motor bolt holes while it's actually kind of mocked up in place. Got all my holes marked out here, and then I ended up drilling them all out real quick just because I know no one wants to watch someone drill 4 holes on a time lapse or whatever. So now that we got all our holes drilled, we can finally get the motor put in place and throw all the bolts in. Make sure everything's all lined up. The chain should be pretty good in alignment, and if anything, I ended up drilling these holes a little bit bigger than the hardware I'm actually going to be using, so it has that little bit of wiggle room just to kind of shift around if I need to. If it ends up still hitting over here or in the front there, I can kind of move it around a bit. And since we don't have any adjustment in the motor up here, we only have adjustment in the chain tension right there, I kind of want to give myself a little bit if I can. So other than that, she is finally ready to get the motor put it up in there and see what she's looking like with the motor actually bolted up there. And then I think tomorrow, once we actually get all the parts in the mail, we can get this thing all slapped together, and we might be able to take it for its first test drive tomorrow and actually see how this thing rips. One thing I know, I don't have any brakes on this thing at all. I'm trying to order some for this thing, but they're a pain to find, at least some hydraulic kits that are kind of reasonably cheap. I'm not really trying to spend too much money on this whole project, so I want to try to find a hydraulic brakes, especially since it's going to have a 6 horsepower in it. I need some good brakes on it, so I'm still looking around. I might end up messing around with some other brakes that my buddy actually bought and seeing if I can mock them up on here, and maybe I can weld it in a little bit so they actually do bolt up and actually have some hydraulic brakes for this thing when we take it for a rip. But we'll see. So that sounds like a tomorrow problem, but let's get the motor bolted up and I'll show you guys what it looks like inside the frame actually bolted up in there. And just like that, got the 6.5 horsepower motor bolted up inside the frame, and she fits perfectly. My little bit of clearance in on the frame there is literally has like maybe a paper gap in between it, so we're good to go there. I might end up hitting it a little bit more just to kind of give it that little bit more clearance, but as you can see with the chain on there, I kind of just have it, the old one mocked up on here for right now, just kind of get a good idea. But she is nice and straight all the way to the clutch, got the engine nice and lined up on the engine plate, so she's good to go. So now once we actually get some parts in tomorrow, we can get it all together finally and finally take this thing on the streets and feel what she's gonna do. I'm guessing this thing's probably going to go upwards of 50 to 60, especially since I bought a 40-tooth rear sprocket for the back. Going from a, I think it's like a 65 or 70 to a 40, this thing should rip pretty good and probably do some good wheelies. That's kind of the whole goal with this thing, is make a badass little wheelie machine that's fast as hell too. So everything's looking good so far. I'm pretty stoked about it. If you guys are questioning, I will be replacing the stock exhaust eventually, but I don't have an exhaust right now. I might end up just snagging the center exit and just replacing it, just because I kind of want to see an exhaust on this thing and kind of just wrap this thing up completely and feel what she's actually going to feel like with all the parts I want to do to it. I'm definitely going to change the intake up later because I don't like how far this thing kind of sticks out compared to everything else. So I want to get it tucked up a little bit more, kind of like my other toys, like this one here or the mini quads with all their snorkels and stuff. But other than that, I'm gonna call it a night here. So catch you guys tomorrow once you actually got some parts, and let's get this thing fixed up and ripping.
Day 2.
And we finally got our shipment of parts in to actually finish up this little mini bike with the 6.5 horsepower swap. So here I got everything all laid out. We got a brand new clutch for this thing and a new chain, so we can get that all finished up. I did order a 40-tooth rear sprocket, but this thing is really tiny. It's kind of hard to tell. It's still in the packaging there, but compared to the 65 one there, I don't really know if I want to put this one on yet. At least I kind of want to feel this thing out with maybe this bigger size one. I think it's a 65 or 70, and then maybe swap on this 40 tooth later on, so then we can at least get a little bit more speed. Got a nice little seat for it. It's nothing too special. I think it's like a little CT100 replacement seat, and it kind of fits on here pretty nicely, and I kind of like how it still kind of gives me a little bit of a handle. It definitely is a little bit on the taller side than I expected, but hey, it is what it is. At least slaps a seat on this thing for pretty super cheap. But the only thing is we're gonna have to find, I at least build some little brackets to convert it to this kind of little 90 down there, when it's just got a couple holes on the bottom. Might be hard to see, but just got a couple holes on the bottom there, and then we're gonna definitely have to build a little strip on the front here to kind of just hold the front of the seat up so it's not going down through the frame. So that should be super easy, but she mocked up. She looks pretty good, so I'm not really complaining. That'll at least work for right now. And then ended up just picking up a brand new thumb throttle and some grips there so we can get it all wrapped up. Actually have a throttle on this thing. Still have no brakes on it, so it is what it is. We'll kind of figure that out later. But I'm also going to actually swap it on this gas tank right here, just because it is actually a little bit shorter than this Predator one that's on there. And it also has a fuel level gauge, so I kind of want to just clean this thing up since it's been sitting for a while. I had this on the shelf and actually swap that up on there. And especially since this Predator one has the vent on here and is a little shoddy kind of all around. It's starting to break off on the back there, and then these front studs feel a little loose, so I kind of just want to get this one replaced, and that one will also give me the gas tank up in a better spot. So I think that's going to work out perfectly. So it's a mo better time to just get to work and start knocking this thing out. I'll set you guys up on another time lapse, and let's get all these parts wrapped up and mounted up on there. So after that time lapse of me getting the motor mainly all put together, installing the throttle cable, the new gas tank, and a few little bits to it, I kind of just ended up putting the camera down and getting mainly the whole mini bike all knocked out. So I ended up getting the motor installed in the frame here, got the fresh gas tank on there, got the throttle cable all hooked up. I even hooked up the thumb throttle up here, got the grips hooked on, the little kill switch as well, and motor all mounted up completely and mounted and actually tight for once. I ended up actually mounting up a center exit exhaust that I was saying I was going to steal from another project, because the stock muffler was just aiming right at the seat, kind of like it would be blowing right under there, and I don't want the seat to melt. So I kind of just swapped that on for now, and I'll kind of just replace that for the other project, but it's no big deal. And as you can tell, got the seat all bolted up, so I ended up just building some little 90-degree brackets off the old seat mount and going to these mounts on this seat and on the front here. Kind of hard to tell, but got a little plate in there with a bolt on it, and then I kind of just welded it on each side. I will clean up those welds later once we actually get this thing tore down and painted later on, but she is all together, and the only issue I'm having right now is actually getting a chain to tighten up on this thing. So as you can see, I got a chain put up on it. I kind of just used the old one, added a few links, but for some reason I feel like I'm just stuck right in between a single link, and I'm just kind of not having a good time with this. Wherever the chain tensioner is, or however long the chain is, it's either I'm stuck in between a link or the chain is too short for this thing. So I was wanting to keep the 60 or 70 tooth, whatever it is, on the back there. So, but I think I'm gonna end up having to actually put this little 40 tooth sprocket on there. It's still in the packaging here, but this little 40 tooth sprocket on there, just to see if I'm kind of just stuck in between the link on the 65 or if the 40 will actually fit perfectly. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm gonna knock out right now. And sadly, it is already starting to get dark here, so I don't think we're gonna end up riding this thing today, which is cool because at least tomorrow we'll at least have a little bit more daylight to actually have some fun with this thing and rip it around and see how it actually feels. So I think I'm gonna end up getting to work, ripping this whole rear end off, getting this 42 sprocket slapped on there, hopefully get a chain on this thing finally, and maybe even start it up tonight and at least hear it run, because I haven't heard this motor run in a little bit, and with this new gas tank and stuff, I want to make sure this thing actually runs good and so forth. But other than that, just get this thing knocked out so we can finally take it for some rips at least tomorrow.
Day 3.
Alrighty boys, so it's the next day, and like I was saying last night, I ended up swapping the 42 sprocket on there, and this thing is tiny, at least compared to the wheel and even compared to the sprocket I pulled off of there. It is definitely a huge difference. Kind of sucks because I really wanted to see what it did with the 65 or 72 sprocket that came stock on it, but this fits a lot better. The chain is still not correct. I still seem like I'm in between a link somewhere, or something just not going right. I think I might end up adding a spacer underneath the motor just to kind of raise it up, maybe like a 1/4 inch, just to give me a little bit more kind of adjustability, let this chain kind of tighten up a little bit, because this is full tight and that's as tight as it will go. So I think it should be good, and I ended up just starting it up off camera because I haven't ran this motor in a couple months, since it's just been sitting on my shelf, not really doing anything, and this thing seems to be running good. Put some fresh gas in it. I had to do a little tuning to it, so I might need to do some more tuning once we actually start test driving and stuff, but chain hasn't flown off yet, so everything's looking good, and that's why you might notice some chain lube all over the frame and stuff from this brand new chain. But other than that, she is sounding good and she is ready to rip. And the more I've been thinking about this seat that I installed on here, I really don't like this thing. So I ended up just going on Go Power Sports last night and ordering up the correct seat for this thing, so it'll at least look the par and actually match this frame, at least what the seat's supposed to look like. Luckily, with this brace that I just welded in there for this seat, it shouldn't interfere with the seat that actually mounts on here. At least what I'm looking at, it shouldn't interfere, but if anything, I'm hoping it doesn't, so it'll actually give the seat a little bit more support in the center there, especially if the seat's actually a wheelie machine. I might want to put my foot on the seat or something, so we'll see what's going on with that. But it's finally time to actually take this thing out and do some test drives with it and see how it feels. It still has no brakes, so that is going to be the one kind of killer on this whole thing. I don't really want to go burn it through my shoes right now, so I'm going to take it easy, but I'm still going to feel this thing out. I want to see what this thing will do, and the top speed on this thing should be pretty gnarly with a 42 sprocket on the back and I think a 12 on the front, so we're going to see. So not enough talking, let's get the head cam slapped up and let's finally take this thing for a rip, because we've been working on it for a few days now. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. Instead of using the head cam up on top, especially how small this bike is and how tall that little seat is, it kind of makes you sit up a little high, and with the head cam, you guys barely can even see the handlebars. So I think the chest cam, I actually see the handlebars, can actually see where I'm driving and stuff for the most part. So it's finally time to take this thing for a rip. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous because this thing should go pretty quick. Probably be my fastest bike. I did let it warm up a little bit before this, so it should be good to go. Oh my God, Jesus. I don't know what the hell just happened there. I think I just broke a fan blade. This just flew out of there. Well, just another day. I love it. Well, luckily I just picked up that thing earlier today for $5, and it's got a fan blades. It's basically just like a parts block, but sweet, that works, I guess. So let's take this thing for a rip finally. I think you guys can see all right. Not too bad. This thing should be pretty fast. I'm curious if it'll actually do like wheelie. no brakes, so foot brakes it is. Just gonna feel it out a little bit, make sure the chain ain't gonna fall off on me. Oh, this thing is fast. My dad's just out of the clutch range. This thing's probably going like 30. Oh man. Oh, geared a little too high. Okay, so we'll lift the front wheel a little bit. Gotta use those foot brakes like usual. I really need to get some hydraulic brakes set up on this thing ASAP. That's for sure. At least like a semi run. See how far I'll actually send it. Let's get this thing set up. Oh, alright. I don't care. Alright. Come on. There. Nope, we're not going anywhere. Okay. 0, 0. I'm gonna put this in my pocket. Let's send her. Some brakes if I want to go any faster. That thing was cooking. Holy shit. And I didn't even hit the governor yet. This thing's still governed. At least it should be, as far as I know. Oh, I gotta see that. 47. Holy shit. This is so far my fastest toy. I think the carbon mini bike goes like 45. 47 miles per hour on this little thing is gnarly. Maybe I'll do a little. Oh, is she good? I don't think there's much gas in this thing. Nope, there is no gas in it. Alright, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to get this thing home. Let's do one of these, get some fuel into the carb. Pretty good. What do you make it home now? Alright, she will really run this boy down. That's why you have brakes. That's why you have brakes. Alright, she will wheelie. Jeez. I think I might want to put a little bit bigger gear on the back, more like a 54 instead of like a 40. Something just like kind of in the middle of stock and this 40. Because this thing is a little too gnarly for this little bike. But hey, mechanics always gotta have the fastest toy. Time to park this baby up till we got some brakes, because this thing is a little sketchy. Just a little bit. Oh, geez, coming in a little hot. Definitely got a new noise coming from somewhere. Oh, I think it's exhaust. Or is it seat? I really don't know. I guess I'm gonna take a look. Alright, now that we took this thing for a test drive and we see that it's a ripper, I think it's finally time to do a nice little burnout in the garage before my neighbors get home. And heat. I am stoked with how this thing did a burnout. That was pretty good burnout. It's probably my first really good smoky burnout, at least with a mini bike, especially kind of just holding it. But the amount of rubber that was smacking my hand and hitting my face was a little crazy, so kind of called it a little early. But this thing is just a sweet little bike. The swap was pretty straightforward for the most part. Definitely had its little things with the front oil drain hitting the frame on there, and then also the carb, which I think the carb is still even hitting, so I might have to hammer the frame in a little bit more later. But other than that, this thing was pretty straightforward. I really didn't put much money into this thing at all. Once I actually get the right seat in for this thing, it should at least fit the whole vibe and at least be a pretty solid little bike. And once we actually get some brakes on it, because having no brakes on it and going almost 50 plus is a little sketchy, so definitely need to get some brakes on this thing. So that's probably going to be the next thing I actually work on. So this thing is a pretty solid little project, and it's probably the fastest toy. Yep, that should be basically the fastest toy out of anyone I know around here. So pretty stoked on that, because the mechanics always got to have the fastest toy. But other than that, don't really have any more much to do to the bike and actually finish it up yet. I got some parts on the way, so soon enough we'll be back to work on this thing and actually getting it wrapped up for the most part, and then rip it around for a little bit, and then we should tear it all down, get it painted up, get her looking the part, and then get some nice little goodies on it as well. I do want to do a couple little upgrades to the motor, but it is a Hemi, so it's a little hard to find parts for these things, but we will see. You never know what pops up on Facebook Marketplace. But other than that, I just want to get that last tire, or that rear tire, smoked off there, because I have some other matching tires that actually match the front. I think I have 2 full sets of those tires, so we can roast tires for days on this thing and not really have to worry. It's just going to be the fun part of actually swapping tires and stuff. But other than that, I think it's going to be the end of today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hope you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and peace out.